are 5 players I'm much lower on than the rest of the fantasy community right now. Some of them are unproven players, some are due for obvious massive regression, and some of them are just in new bad situations. I'm going to be breaking down why you shouldn't be drafting these 5 players so you don't blow up your draft and you can start your season on the right foot.
That's me taking the bull by the horns.
The first player that is going way too high in drafts is Ashton Jeanty. He's currently going around pick 10 overall, and I've even seen him going as high as number 1 overall. And most people are treating him like a high-end, locked-in RB1 coming off of his rookie year. This is something I cannot fathom. He didn't even break 1,000 rushing yards last season, and he only had 3.7 yards per carry.
What did you say?
That was one of the worst yards per carry of any running back in the NFL. Now, before you come at me and say, oh, but Sam, it wasn't his fault. He was playing for the Raiders. His line was bad. Yeah, he's still playing for the Raiders. They bolstered the line a bit, but it's not going to get that much better. He's going to be in a very similar situation to where he was last year. And it's not like he snuck in as like the RB6 he's being drafted at. He finished around RB13 last season, and that was thanks to only a few big weeks. Throughout all 18 weeks, he only had 4 that were top 5 finishes.
Oh, that's terrible.
But he was RB24 or worse in 10 games. And as I mentioned before, I really can't understand how his situation has gotten much better. The defense is still awful, which means the Raiders are going to have to be throwing a ton, which means less work for Jeanty. And yes, he's a decent pass catcher and he will catch a lot of stuff out of the backfield. But last year he had about 300 receiving yards. He's not Christian McCaffrey who's going to save his fantasy value through 1,000 yards receiving. Even if we gave him the benefit of the doubt and we said, hey, he's going to be 15% better than he was last season, that would put him around 1,100 rush yards and 400 receiving yards, which still to me does not justify a back end round 1 pick. He's got a difficult schedule ahead of him, and I don't see why he's even going ahead of like players that I'm going to talk about next that I'm still avoiding, but him going in this range just absolutely makes no sense to me. The Raiders are a dysfunctional organization, and I'm not putting high draft capital in a running back that hasn't even broken 1,000 yards in a season. If it's me, I would draft him in the mid to late second round at the earliest. Before I forget, if you get any value out of this video, I would really appreciate a like and a subscription. We are a new channel and we're really trying to grow. Thanks so much. And that brings us to another running back that I think is in a really interesting situation, and that is De'Von Achane of the Miami Dolphins. At his current ADP, most people are seeing him as a still locked in like RB6. I've been seeing him go as early as the end of the first to high mid-second. And as a Dolphins fan who watches every single game, I can tell you that I love De'Von Achane, the player. I thought he was amazing last season, and he nearly won the rushing title. The problem is his situation. Tyreek Hill is gone. Jalen Waddle's gone. But most importantly, Mike McDaniel is gone. Mike McDaniel was a wizard when it came to the run scheme. It was mainly because of him that Achane was able to break out so many of these big runs. And not to say anyone could do it. Achane is a special player. But with no wide receiver threats, a new quarterback in Malik Willis, a new head coach, I really question if Achane can duplicate his numbers from last season, and he's currently being drafted like that's already a given. He's got 2 thick running backs behind him that occasionally vulture touchdowns, which I don't love, and Achane is not necessarily a goal line back. He's a fast, shifty dude. So most of his value is going to have to come on big plays like it did last season. My concern is that every defense, he is going to be their main priority when he's on the field. While he's going around RB6, I've got him much lower, around RB9 to RB11. And if somebody else wants to take him at the end of the first or the top of the second, be my guest. Speaking of another player due for regression this season, and that is Christian McCaffrey of the San Francisco 49ers. I know I've talked about Christian McCaffrey in a few other videos, but people still aren't getting it. And in fact, I'm seeing him go up draft boards. I've been seeing him go as pick 4, pick 5 in the first round.
Don't like that.
A lot of people are still taking him as the 3rd running back off the board, and to me, that's way too high. I think he's going to finish outside the top 6, 7, and has potential to finish outside the top 10. He's way too risky coming off a season with over 400 touches. He just hit the age of 30, and we know when running backs hit that age, they tend to decline. He's barely been practicing. We're not going to see him in the preseason. Every day he's sitting out because of tightness, soreness. He's just getting older.
Get off my lawn.
And running backs historically who have had over 400 touches have had massive drop-offs the next year. And I've had people coming at me say, oh, Sam, how can you be down? He was the overall running back 1 last season. That's great and all, but it was on pure volume. His metrics as a runner were terrible. He had under 4 yards per carry. He was in that Ashton Jeanty range. He barely cracked 1,000 yards rushing, which is absurd. Did you guys know he only had like 4 rushes of over 20 yards? If you watched him, he didn't look good. And most of his fantasy value, he saved in the receiving game. And he's still a great receiving back, but I see all of his numbers across the board dropping at least 20%. If you're drafting him as the running back 3 overall, you're basically getting him at the most expensive price point possible, and everything has to go right for him to earn that price tag. You're going to be thanking me when one of your league mates drafts Christian McCaffrey, and he's either hurt week 3 and he's out for the rest of the season, or we see his workload get massively diminished so they can keep him healthy throughout the season. Either way, I can guarantee you that a repeat from last year is not in the cards. The only running back that's ever gone back-to-back as the RB1, by the way, is Todd Gurley. That was him in his prime with the Rams. CMC is past his prime, and he's my number 1 landmine to avoid in this draft. On to a quarterback that I think is still going way too high. He is locked in as the consensus QB2 in fantasy right now, and that is Lamar Jackson. He's 2 years removed from almost winning MVP, and he ended up losing that to Josh Allen, and ever since then, and last season getting banged up, he has not looked good. He really struggled. He was playing through an injury the second half of last season, and I just wonder how much that's going to linger. If he can't use his legs to run, I'm extremely concerned about him. I'm currently seeing him going at the top of round 3 often, and that is a price tag I'm not willing to pay in a draft that is as deep as it is for quarterbacks this year. You can get guys in round 6, 7, 8, 9 that are gonna produce, I think, just as well as him this year. Lamar also gets a new offensive coordinator, which is a big red flag for me. We've seen how Lamar has operated. John Harbaugh's been his coach forever, and everything's always been about Lamar's stats, and really Lamar's been a regular season king forever, right? He's great at putting up huge numbers in the regular season, then choking in the playoffs. But what if we get a coach that comes in that says, hey, Lamar, I don't care about your stats anymore, bro. All we care about is winning at this point. And if that means we save your legs so you're healthy later on, so be it. If that means we feed King Henry more, so be it. If that means you turn into slightly more of a game manager, so be it. Probably a good thing considering every team has the Ravens figured out by the playoffs. Everything goes through Lamar. And let me say this, I think Lamar Jackson is gonna bounce back from where he was last season. I don't think we're just gonna see him torpedo and fall off a cliff, but to be putting him right back underneath Josh Allen and getting drafted as high as he is, it's way too expensive for me. It's way too high of a risk, especially if that injury does cause problems for him. I would much rather take guys like Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, or Dak Prescott, all going in much later rounds. While consensus has him at QB2, I have him more around QB5. And if it were up to me, I'd be swapping him with Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts would be my QB2. The last player we're going to talk about is tight end Colston Loveland. He's a player very similar to Ashton Jeanty to me, where he had a alright rookie season, 700 yards receiving and 6 touchdowns, and finished as the tight end 12. But all of a sudden, because the Bears are a big media market and Ben Johnson's saying they're going to be the best offense of all time, even though nothing's really changed there besides Luther Burden getting hurt and DJ Moore going out the back door. And all of a sudden, the guy who finished with tight end 12 numbers, who's in the same situation he was in last season, sure, he'll probably grow as a player, but he's being drafted as the tight end 3. This is an absolute trap player, you guys. If he was going tight end 8, 9, sure, but tight end 3? That's a 9 jump, and people are paying that price too. He's currently going at the top of round 4 behind only Trey McBride and Brock Bowers. Those two are in a class of their own, but he's getting drafted right after them. To me, it's those two, and then there's a decent drop-off. And tight end, like quarterback, is so deep this season that you can legitimately wait until like rounds 10, 11 to go pick up a viable tight end. Colston Loveland also produced most of these numbers towards the end of the year. He broke out a little bit like Luther Burden. Like when that Bears offense was just in all those desperate comeback games and they were throwing the ball a million times, like that's not necessarily going to happen, especially if the Bears are as good of an offense as they say they are. They're going to run the ball. Ben Johnson, that's his main priority, is coming up with a great run scheme. While he's currently going as the tight end 3, I've got him closer to like tight end 7. And I'm really only taking him at value if he's dropping into like the late 5th, 6th round, because there are just too many valuable players at other positions, specifically running back and wide receiver, that you can get in those rounds. That's it. Those are my 5 guys. If you enjoyed any part of this video, I'd really appreciate a like and a subscription if you're up for it, as we're a new channel and we're really trying to grow.